Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another double take. I'm going to talk about two more Masumura and Ayako Wakao collaborations, 1960's Afraid to Die and 1967's Two Wives. Masumura has done quite a few films about wives. Sayaku's Wife, which is absolutely phenomenal, and The Wife of Sesshu Hanoka, which is absolutely phenomenal. As you can see, I just have them on these obviously not official released DVDs. Somebody really needs to get onto Masumura from the boutique labels. Obviously Arrow have released Giants and Toys and Red Angel and Blind Beast and Irizumi and Black Test Car, Black Report, but there's so many other just fantastic Masumura films, and these two are absolutely wonderful. So we'll talk about 1960s Afraid to Die first, which co-stars Eiji Funakoshi and of course Shimura Takashi, but it also stars somebody called Mishima, who you may be familiar with Paul Schrader's Mishima, Life in 4 Chapters. Well, it's that Mishima, who obviously is one of the most famous Japanese writers of all time, but he also did a bit of acting as well as a bit of writing. I mean, he is ridiculously cut. He must have like 10% body fat in the film, because he was very strict in more ways than one. But what I didn't know was Masumura and Mishima actually went to school together. Masumura said Mishima would be down the front making copious notes, writing copious notes, but they kind of lost touch, and then Masumura was surprised that in 1959 who would be in his office looking to be in Masumura's next film but Mishima. He does have like a very distinctive face, so it was kind of a bit of a shock. It's like, is that the Mishima? And it's like, yep, that's the Mishima. He gives a very frenetic, energetic performance as well. He's a bit of a scumbag, to be honest, in this film. He is in prison. He doesn't have too long to get out for stabbing a rival boss of a gang. We've all done it. And he gets a visitor while they're playing volleyball. The film opens, or the title sequence is a wonderful POV of a car approaching Tokyo prison. He gets a visitor, but he's in the middle of a volleyball game, so somebody else says they'll go in his place. So he goes to visit, and he is promptly shot by the visitor, who has a contract to shoot who he believes is Mishima's character, and of course it turns out it's not. So this guy who was to replace Mishima's character after shooting him obviously is going to prison for shooting the wrong guy. So Mishima actually asks the prison warden, can I stay a few days extra? I know I'm been thrown out, but can I stay a few days extra? There seems to be a very cordial relationship between the prisoners and the people in charge, but of course he's rejected but he somehow slips out the back door. So he belongs to a kind of smaller group headed by the wonderful Takashi Shimura, with Yakuza tats and everything. But he's dying. He's fairly ill. So obviously the rival gang want to kill him. The rival boss wants him dead because he's still suffering a bit from the stabbing. So Mishima's character gets with his old girlfriend, but then immediately dumps her after sex because he doesn't want her being used to get to him. You know, because he asks her, "Would you die for me?" And of course she says yes, and he's like, "Well, I wouldn't die for you." Yeah, I mean, he's not the most pleasant character in the world. So she's a singer, and we get to hear, as we're introduced to the nightclub that she sings at, she sings a song about bananas, which I'm not sure it's actually about bananas, you know, how long and thick they are, but it's about bananas apparently. And he kind of comes across Wakao, who is front of house and kind of cleaning up. But obviously Ayako Wakao's absolutely stunningly beautiful, so it doesn't kind of not the people who are front of house and wash the floors can't be absolutely beautiful, but she stands out a bit. But he is your typical kind of user, but for some reason Wakao thinks she can change him and thinks she can kind of talk him out of the Yakuza business. He kind of becomes the underboss to Shimura, and he does kind of get with Wakao, but not particularly in a romantic way. He basically rapes her, but then she still wants to help him and still wants to, you know, he does despicable things to her. You know, it's obviously, you know, Japan doesn't have the greatest relationship throughout the years as far as their attitude to women, but a lot of Japanese cinema has great female actors and films that give female actors great parts. Obviously Misoguchi and Ozu, and Masumura has great films with great women in them. But Wakao is not treated that well, well, in either of these films, to be honest, but she's treated the worst in Afraid to Die. Other things happen which I'm not going to get into because obviously it's not a very well seen film, unfortunately, even though it should be. And I've said before, as much as I enjoy the Kato Tai films from Radiance, Kato Tai is nowhere near Masumura in my opinion. And it would be really nice if somebody, whether it's More Arrow or Radiance, could get a hold of a bunch of Masumura films, because I think I've seen about 14 Masumura films now, and none of them are bad films. They're all, I think his worst films, like, good, and most of them are absolute bangers, as the kids might say. So I mean, Mishima, despite playing an absolute scumbag, eventually does try for redemption. He does see that going up against this bigger group isn't really going to work, but as he and Wakao, despite how badly he's treated her, are they going to get away and start a new life in Osaka? Who knows? You'll have to watch the film to see. But again, it's just crackling with energy. All the performances are wonderful. Masumura always keeps the compositions interesting. Both these films are in colour, and Afraid to Die is another wonderful Masumura film. So we come to Two Wives, 1967, which on the synopsis wouldn't necessarily be my thing, but man, this is absolutely brilliant. This is another Masumura film directed by Kaneto Shindo, who of course directed lots of films himself, but he also collaborated and wrote quite a few Masumura films, and they're amongst his best, I think. So Shindo knows a thing or two about writing a good story. So this is about kind of two couples. I'll try and explain the structure of the triangle. Well, it's more a triangle than that. It's something more than a triangle. So you have this owner of a magazine called Housewives World, which is obviously all things housewife, and he has two daughters, one played by Ayako Wakao, who's the good daughter, if you like, and another daughter called Ray, or Rai, I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it, and she's kind of the bad daughter, if you will, and she's going out with a character called Kobayashi, and they want to marry, even though Kobayashi's a bit of a scumbag. Ikayo Wakao, she is married to a writer, kind of failed writer who now works for the magazine, but he used to have a relationship with a woman called Junko, played by the wonderful Mariko Okada, who again you'll recognise from lots of Japanese films in the 60s and 50s. It also co-stars Koji Takahashi, who again you'll recognise. So he used to have a thing with Junko, and Junko also has a thing with the scumbag Kobayashi. The company owner, who again is played by an actor that you'll recognise, he's been in quite a lot of things. He has a maid who looks after his daughter and son-in-law, and she has a daughter who's in need of an operation. So that's kind of the characters, but it becomes a story about blackmail and moral quandaries, cover-ups, bribery, eventually murder, and who's going to take the fall for it, alibis. It's just so good, so well written. You know who everybody is, you know who all their motives are, brilliantly acted. Again, Wakao is just fantastic, as she always is. There is violence towards women in the film. All the women get slapped quite a bit. We're introduced to Akada's character. She works in a nightclub, but she's wearing like a scarf round her throat, because Kobayashi has strangled her a bit, choked her a bit, and left her a nasty big bruise, which isn't really that good for customers coming into the nightclub. So kind of at the start, the writer, who I apologise, I can't actually remember his character name, he kind of wants to help her out, but then of course, because they used to be lovers, things get complicated, and then Kobayashi uses that to blackmail Wakao's character, and obviously the bad sister's no good either. Again, it's just another absolute corker from Masumura, as I said, written by Shindo, I mean, these films are just fantastic, and again, it's a real shame that, I mean, obviously Arrow was my first exposure to Masumura, with Blind Beast and Red Angel, etc. But he's done so many films, and as I said, I think I've seen about 14, and they're all good to great. And again, great roles for women, great performances, and that's where my love of Ayako Wakao has come from, because I think she made, I can't actually remember them, but a good number of films with Masumura. Yeah, just another two corkers from Masumura, a director that really needs more exposure, because his films are absolutely wonderful. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know if you've seen these two, Two Wives and Afraid to Die, with the one and only Mishima, who obviously wasn't afraid to die, as he died in 1970 by his own hand. And hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of Double Take. I've still got a couple of Masumuras to watch in the backlog, so who knows, there might be more Masumura reviews, because I do have to get more of his stuff, because as much as I love Fukasaku and Suzuki, I mean, again, for me, Masumura is just absolutely wonderful, and one of my favourite discoveries of the last couple of years. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Double Take. Hopefully you'll join me again for more videos. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.